learning to heal and learning to respect the environment.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Debbie. This is one wonderful person. I don't know if any of you have gotten to know her personally over the years, but she is an amazing individual, and she's put together an amazing show. And what I like about Debbie is that she's changing all the time. She's growing and she's stepping into the future with a lot of gusto and brave heart and heartfelt ventures. So
And intentions, and please, everybody come along with me.
yeah, it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yes.
Great. Excellent. Well, thank you guys for coming. It's really nice. And thanks again for Glass Growers. And I want to give a little shout out to my mom, who actually is my new agent in Erie.
Yes.
Or maybe co-agent with Debbie, but she set this up for me, and that's really nice. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania. I love the town, and couldn't wait to get away. So, but that was a long time ago. That was in 1979 when I went off to Edinburgh, studied art, and then moved to Washington, D.C., where I started my advertising career, which I absolutely loved. And then eventually I had an ad agency. I ran that for 20 years, sold it, and started reinventing myself. And I spent 2 years traveling and studying nutritional cooking and all kinds of wellness modalities. And then I started painting. I also worked on in that time frame, I worked on a little project that was a device, kind of like the Fitbit, that measures how much sun you get. And that was a lot of fun as well. It was all very, that was a very technical venture, and it was really fun. But painting is really where my passion lies, and also in the nutritional cooking. And the two don't really tie together. One is trying to take chemicals out of food, and the other one's all chemicals. Painting, it's not all chemicals, but we paint with a lot of plastic these days, so acrylic paint is plastic. But to me, it's all energy. And when I started painting these abstract paintings, I was trying to change, and I was trying to, for a better word, shift into some new consciousness. And so I was painting light. I was looking at things and I was saying, what's refracting out of that thing? What's the energy behind it? What is perspective of quantum physics when you're looking at something? Is it just really that house there, or is there something else going on? Or is it just really a tree, or is there a lot more information in that? And in the process of looking at that new information, I would feel these profound shifts in my own consciousness, and I could see the change. And the more I saw the change take place, the more I wanted to paint, and the more I wanted to understand energy, and the more I wanted to express myself through these paintings. And it was almost like it really caught on with me, and so I continued to paint. The food, on the other hand, I was teaching classes, and I was learning more and more about food, and I began to really want to understand that from an energetic standpoint as well. And so I began to look at food energetically, and what is it doing for us? What information is it giving our system? Not just what nutrients and what vitamins, and eventually I began to see myself becoming a more energetic being, which has really been helpful in making all these consciousness shifts. And then looking at other people as more energetic beings, seeing their soul, seeing their light, and not necessarily just their physical attributes. And not just hearing their words, but hearing their intentions and being part of those intentions and conveying my intentions as well. So for me, that's what I meant when I entitled the show Invitation to Shift, because for me, everything is an invitation to shift. But this art was really where it began for me, was just, I knew I needed to understand something that I didn't already know. And so the shift began with just allowing myself to paint abstractly, just, not being tethered to the past, not being tethered to stuff I already knew. It was a very interesting journey for me, and I just had a blast doing it.
Did you study painting at
I
Edinburgh?
studied painting in Edinburgh. I studied it before I went to Edinburgh. Some of you know Asbury Barn. I took lessons there, and of course in school, in high school, I was always in the art classes. So, but there, we were always doing, you know, paintings of flowers or houses or shoes or, you know, fruit, you know, things like that.
Recognizable things.
Recognizable things, and it builds your skill level. You know, you do see things differently in art, regardless of whether they're painted realistically or abstractly, but there is also a different intention when you really want to just look at the light of something or the information that's coming out of something rather than its physical characteristics. So yes, I studied art, and it was, I could only see these visions of me being a starving artist, so I knew I needed to do something more practical right from the beginning. And so I really do love small business. I love entrepreneurs. I think that that's, you know, the where a lot of real good change happens in this world too, is with small business people. And so that's why I think I took a path into advertising and graphic design. My paintings also all have poetry associated with them, because to me, the poetry in part explains the shift that I'm going through, but it also words have their own power with them, and I've always been interested in words. So I'd like to read some of them. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look through them, but a lot of them talk about subjects that are really important to me, and I'll just speak to this one right here behind me to start with. And the poem for this one is, "Change is the only path forward. Embrace it, create it, enjoy it." And that's about actually the process of knowing that you're part of the change, knowing that you are the change, you know, becoming the change.
And we don't have to think of it as an inevitable consequence. It's a wonderful process of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like becoming a baby again, where you really embrace every little stumble, every little step, every little thing that happens. You're like, wow, look at that, because you're seeing it differently.
That sense of wonder.
Exactly, that sense of wonder. This one over here, swaying your own mind requires more sunshine to see more from your heart. And that speaks to how the process of moving out of your brain and back into your heart, because really information comes to you through your heart first, and your brain actually then has to decide what to do with that information. And so if you learn to absorb things from your heart, and you learn to open your heart, and you learn to accept that your heart is the actual real pathway for information, it actually changes almost everything you do and the way you do it. And a couple years ago, I had the great fortune to go to Mexico and study with an organization called Heart Math, and they have all the science behind understanding the heart and the brain and the connection between the two. And they had all these new studies that showed they have, you know, abilities now to measure this stuff very succinctly, and they were able to show that the information comes to your heart first, and then your body, you know, sort of